Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel Beth Chats Books. Now today I'm going to do the My Neck of the Woods book tag. Now I can't remember who tagged me and I know I was tagged months ago, so apologies. What I'll do is when I upload this video I will find out who tagged me in it and put them down below and put their version of the tag. I thought it might have been Simone, but I'm not entirely sure, so I will let you guys know down below. And obviously I would tag loads of people, but I know so many people have done it, and I've only kind of rewatched Jasmine's video before doing this one so that we didn't have too much overlap. So I'm just going to say now, before I forget, if you want to be tagged in this, go ahead and do it. It's an amazing tag, so much fun to do. And without further ado, I'm going to do my version. So I've really struggled to do this tag because I think it's an amazing idea. However, My Neck of the Woods is a very unproductive, unliterary, not very special place of the world, shall we say. So I come originally from Preston in Lancashire, which is where I live now. However, Preston is not on the map for, many novelists, writers, and so I've had to open it up a little bit. The most famous thing that came out of Preston was Freddie Flintoff, who, he does stuff with James Corden now on television, but he is about it for us. So I've had to open my scope a little bit. Now, I feel really bad because most of the things that I'm going to recommend, I'm kind of pinching from other parts of the Northwest in general. So I've got to open up to the Northwest because otherwise I would have absolutely zilch to tell you guys about. So unfortunately, I will be nicking a little bit from the lakes and a little bit from Yorkshire, which most people who live in Lancashire or Yorkshire will know we have a mild rivalry. But when it comes to books, you completely trounce us and famous people. So great writers and great playwrights and all sorts. So to some extent, I'm kind of borrowing from other people's. But please forgive me. We can all share. We can all promote the Northwest in general. So I had to check because Jasmine obviously does live, she did live in Kendal in the Lake District, but she now lives in Leicester. But obviously I didn't want to overlap, and I know she was going to talk about the lakes, and the lakes is beautiful, and I was originally going to talk about the lakes, but the lakes are more hers than mine, so I'll let her have them. So the only person I am also going to recommend that she did on her video is William Wordsworth, because like she said it much more articulately and beautiful than I did. But yes, he was almost kind of the creator of the concept of romanticism in poetry before kind of the Victorian period, where people decided to write about nature and encompass emotions into what they described as nature. And Wordsworth is a very famous romantic poet, and he one of his most famous poems is Daffodils, in which he's kind of talking about the daffodils and the lakes, but obviously it's a lot more about emotions and feelings, and so it became a craze for people to kind of transpire what they were feeling into their feelings surrounded in nature. So there's a lot of writing about mountains and lakes and mountainous areas or very extreme weather, and how that kind of was a reflection of their feelings at the time. So William Wordsworth was the most famous, and that was his most famous poem. So I'll link down below any collection that you can go and check out. Obviously in the doobly bar I'll just put all the most exciting stuff that's going on. But I just thought I would showcase them today. So that's William Wordsworth is one of them. And now I'm going to steal a few from Yorkshire. So my most beloved authors, sisterhood, classics, kind of my favourite trio is the Bronte sisters. So I couldn't do this video and not mention them. Yes, I don't come from Yorkshire, but I feel like they are kind of my neck of the woods. I do love them very, very much. So obviously I would recommend my very, very favourite Bronte novel of all time, although I haven't read exhaustively all of the Bronte works, so I can't specifically say, but I don't think it will change. And that is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I absolutely adore that book. I adore Jane and the storyline and all the feels. I love Mr. Rochester and how grumpy he is, and then how he kind of softens and mellows, and it's just a fantastic story. I would also recommend Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. They're the two that I have read and loved. And the third one is going to be The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte, which is the only one out of the three of them that I haven't read. Now, yes, before somebody goes into the comments and says they're not the whole Bronte collection, yes, I know. I know that Charlotte did Villette and The Professor, and I know that Anne did another one. And, you know, I know basically that there's more out there that I haven't read yet, but there's what I would class as their solid core books. But I love them. I've been to the Bronte parsonage, which was in Yorkshire, which is absolutely beautiful. And I was in heaven. If you take me anywhere that's kind of book related, where somebody lived or we get to go through their lives. I've also been to the Dickens Museum. To me, that is heaven on earth, a museum and about a bookish person. It's like, it satisfies every part of me, the history nerd and the English nerd. So yeah, I loved that. So they're the Brontes, would highly recommend. And then the next person is also kind of in Yorkshire as well, and that is Ted Hughes. He was born in Yorkshire. I wouldn't really, you know, I don't know how far he kind of encompassed his Yorkshire identity, but I thought, well, that'll do, because I was really running out of people that I couldn't nick from too far afield as such. So I will recommend Ted Hughes to you guys, and I would recommend his poem or his poem collection, I'm not entirely sure, called Crow. Now, I believe this inspired Max Porter, who wrote a poetry collection called Grief is the Thing with Feathers. Heard, you know, through my English degree, Ted Hughes is a big name that comes up, and also his poem centred around death and grief is also a big thing. Now, I've personally read more of Sylvia Plath's work than Ted Hughes, but I know who he is, and I know he's a very well-respected poet, and so I thought, you know, I'll bring a bit of diversity, not just all about the writers. So there you go, you know, I'm just kind of winging that. I do really need to get to some of his poems, but you know, there's that. So they're all the ones that really I kind of think are a little bit of a cheat, but the last person I'm going to recommend to you definitely is the Northwest. She's not Preston, but she certainly is in my scope of the neck of the woods, so she must qualify. And I absolutely adore her as an eccentric figure in and as of herself, but also as a writer, and that is Jeanette Winterson. So she has written Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit. She's done an autobiography, I forgot that was called, that I read. Something I should have known. I forgot what that was called. And she's written a lot of kind of LGBT books, which was one that I read that I really, really enjoyed. I had to read basically one of them for my English course, and I'll link that down below, when I was at university. Fell in love with her. I love just how passionate she is and how exciting it is to read her stuff. Her and Sarah Waters are the absolute peak of LGBTQ writing, in my opinion. Absolute phenomenal with what they do at their craft. And I have binge watched so many interviews from her because she, to me, is so fascinating. She had such an intriguing upbringing. I believe she was... I don't know if it was a biological mum. I seem to think in the back of my head that it was an adoptive mum. Maybe it was a biological mum, but her mum was very cruel to her, and she was in a very religious home, and she was taught, you know, when she came out as lesbian, she was kind of, you know, not accepted by the family, and she kind of went on a journey, travelled away, found herself, and, you know, the rest is history, as they say. But she's a figure that is very, very interesting. Highly, highly recommend her works. And then a last little side note, while I've just remembered another phenomenal woman who kind of came from the Northwest, who unfortunately is no longer with us, and I wouldn't really class her as a writer, but she was a writer of comedy skits and being on the TV. Very, very famous woman, and that is Victoria Wood. She also ended up going into theatre. I remember watching a play that she'd helped write and create. She was a phenomenal figure. I'll link down below lots of information so you can go and check her out. She encompasses to me everything about my side, my neck of the woods that I love. She was vivacious, cheeky, talented, creative, and the world is kind of a sadder place without her in it, unfortunately. But she really does encompass the things that I'm proud of the Northwest. So that is everything. Like I said earlier in the video, anybody who wants to be tagged, I tag you. Thanks for whoever I find out tagged me. I'm so sorry. But thank you so much for watching this video. Please hit the subscribe button if you want to be alerted for when any of my future videos come out. And I'll be back very soon with a brand new video. Bye now.